Hey everyone, local realtor here, Greater Seattle area realtor Aaron Morrow from King, Pierce, Snohomish counties. And I'm here with my co-host here again, Bryan Laflamme, works with Movement
Washington resident.
Mortgage, Washington resident. Basically, most majority loan products known to man that you would know about. Maybe not super niche ones, but the vast
We're doing
majority
a
of
VA
you.
renovation loan right now for a purchase. But a lot of people don't
Oh,
know
that's
about that.
awesome. VA renovation. Okay.
Like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
awesome. So
Yeah.
cool.
Maybe we could talk about that at the end if we have enough time. But yeah, so today we're here to talk about like maybe the first time around when getting into home ownership, you don't have to really wait to buy that dream home, you know? The strategy isn't always rent for 30 years and then buy the dream home. That might not be always the best
We've
strategy
been
as well.
over that in our live or in our podcast about the wealth disparity between homeowners and renters. Rent for 30 years and then buy a house. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
definitely.
never going to save up enough money.
Yeah. Unless you're in a super like I've had, just to give you an example, I had one client, they were renters for like 30 years and it was like a rags to riches story where they ended up they built up a amazing business and they've been renters for like 30 years and then eventually
Can we
bought
talk
like
about
the.
that for a little bit without being
Yeah.
specific?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I worked for that person in high school.
Yep.
I saw their name and I was like, I know that name. And then you
Yep.
gave me some details, like just like some idiosyncrasies about a person you were working with. And I'm like, nope, put two and together. That's the same person. That's different. This person was putting their money into a business. Very different
Yeah.
than
Completely different
yes,
than
I
the
can't work
standard
that.
norm cookie cutter of what people are doing. But
Yeah, but I'm
that was awesome.
42 now and I worked for that guy in high school. That was so crazy.
That was
In the
my favorite.
90s.
That was my favorite client experience last year, or one of them. And then, again, that they came from referral from their kids that I originally worked with. I love their kids, by the way. They're friends of mine. But yeah,
Mhm.
anyways, not to get off topic here. Yeah, so this is one thing that we're gonna definitely discuss. One thing I did want to share is before we kind of get into some facts and statistics and stuff, I wanted to share sort of this. I guess it's anecdotal, but it
A
is
real
from
life
personal
example.
experience. Yeah, it's a real life
This is how it
example
works
of
in
one of
real
my
life. Yeah.
clients. Yeah, has decided to upgrade over time and buy up. And what I mean by that is there's a client that I initially met all the way back in 2016. And when originally they were looking to buy, they were hoping, they're like, hey, Aaron, our dream is to get into a single family house. We want a home. Well, it turns out based on income restrictions and how pricey things are here in the greater Seattle area, they did not qualify for said house. However, based on current income level, they did qualify. They could get into a condo. So we talked about the strategy of what it would look like. What if you got into a condo that we looked up the numbers and knew that pretty sure you could build up equity over time and pull that and let that equity work for you to then use that money to help you towards your next purchase and keep doing it till you get into that single family house. Because everyone has this idea of, okay, I just have to work super hard to save up for that 20% down so I can actually have a good enough down payment to get into a house.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, with just how much things have increased now, I mean, even if you take out like the last 3 years of just crazy explosive growth, even in an average appreciation rate of between 4 to 7%, roughly, greater Seattle area for appreciation over like the last 30 years or so, it's still hard to keep up with to try to save up for a home. If you're gonna try to save up for that 20% down, you
It's
saving up for that
impossible.
20% down, yeah, yeah. Not to derail
Almost
this
everybody.
story just because of my ADHD or ADD, but I have one client that I've been working with that, you know, uh, they told me their one regret is they wish they didn't spend the last 5 years saving up for that 20% down because now they have it, but that 20% down, that 100 grand, isn't going as far now as they were hoping, in houses that
We
were 500,000 5 years ago are not the same $500,000 houses they are today.
we did that
Um,
math on one of our
yep.
podcasts, I think number 2, where if you were to save $15,000 a year to get to $100,000 saved, the $500,000 house with normal appreciation in our market, that $100,000 you now need $140,000 because that $500,000 house turned into a $704,000 house.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you saved 100, which is amazing. It's awesome, but you lost out on that 100 in equity while you were saving that 100.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm gonna let me pull this back up. One more thing that I'm gonna bring up before I tell this story real quick about this client is I have another client that I'm even currently working with,
So
and
braggy.
no, amazing gal. She went down payment DPA, right? Um,
Mhm.
met her through Facebook. She already working with a fantastic lender, great lender. He's
Sounds
awesome. Not
serious.
you, Brian.
Yeah,
No.
that's nothing. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't exist.
Yeah. No. No. Anyways, they so they tried to. They were looking at buying 3 years ago, and
Hmm.
all they could buy was condos. So they
Hmm.
decided not to buy. Well, guess what she's getting in now?
A
She's
condo.
getting in a condo 3 years later.
Yeah.
And it's a really good condo, but because what we've been showing her in the $500,000 price point for what she's been looking at, the single family house is not, in the areas she's looking in, is not in good enough shape for the amount of bedrooms she needs for her family. So
Yeah.
we beat it to death. We looked at so many properties for her to come to that her own conclusion herself, that now it's get in the condo and let that appreciate to help you be able to use that towards something else. So her only
Hmm.
regret is she did this 3 years ago, so then she could have actually been selling that condo now and getting into a single family house now versus,
Yep. Yeah,
now doing
but
it.
and that is regretful. She made the best decision that she thought at the time. Didn't work
Yeah,
out the way that she thought it
totally.
would. But you don't have to compound that mistake by making another bad choice. Good for her for getting back in.
No, and it's amazing, and honestly, it was one of the cleanest home inspections that I've seen in like the last 3 years. This
Mm.
condo is like immaculate, and it's not
It's
even
probably
brand
because
new,
their
but like
lender's so bad. They were like, "Well, we got to do something right."
no. Oh my gosh, he's actually a really good guy. But you are too. Anyways, let me pull this up for the story. So back to my story. This client of mine was looking. So we decided, okay, we're gonna start looking at condos, and we got him into a really nice condo back in 2017. Their family started growing. We were able to actually in 2019 turn around and sell it for a decent profit. They pulled out 30K of equity after everything was, paid for, closing costs, all that good stuff. And then, and this isn't just using the 30K that they pulled out. They were also saving for the next house too. So it was there, it's a partnership between the house that you're in and you're not really necessarily relying on the house doing all the savings for you to help you buy that next dream home, but you can have your where you're living. Everyone needs a place to live. So wherever you're living,
Got to live inside.
if you're having it help you towards the goal of your dream home one day or getting into the actual single family house that you want to get into, maybe it's not that dream mansion or whatever, but that dream home, dream starter home. Um, this is a good way to do it because they saved up while they built up equity. So then they used both to
Hmm.
combine the savings and the equity to put towards a nice townhouse. And then that
Turbocharging that. Yeah.
townhouse, 2019, they were in it from 2019 to 2021. So another about 2 years. Pulled out 50,000 from that. Had enough
Will you
equity
talk
from
about the
that.
importance of living in a house for 2 years before you sell?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
why 2017 to 2019, then why 2019 to 21?
I mean, most of the time you're gonna need to live into it for like in even a really good market. You're gonna need to be in a minimum of 2 years to get any decent equity out of it, like even a little bit, just because there's so much. There's so if you think about it, when you buy something, you're putting money into it, like a down payment, closing costs, all that good stuff. And then when you turn around and sell it, now you're paying on the sales side too, right?
Mhm.
So you need to make sure that house is appreciated enough that after all of that is paid for, you're actually making a profit from that. You're getting more out of it than you put in. It doesn't make sense if each time you're putting in more, you're getting less when you're selling. Like that wouldn't. You need to stay in it
Yeah.
longer.
The
Yeah.
second part of that is we have our tax code set up to where if you are a single person and you have
Yeah.
lived in a house for 2 out of the previous 5 years, your first $250,000 of profit is non-taxable.
Yep.
It's tax-free
Yep.
money. If you're married, the first 500,000 is tax-free
500.
profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you have been in it for less than 2 years or not 2 years out of the past 5 years, then you owe that tax the next time you file taxes. So that's huge. To wait that 2 years, it could save you a ton of money.
A
And
ton of
when you pay
money.
the tax, it is only on the profit, not the total sale of the house. So if you sell the house for 600, but say you bought it for 450 and you paid fees, then your profit would be less than 500,000 or 250, of course. So
Of course. Of
that's a big
course.
deal too.
Yeah. And I think um overall they kind of coincide. I mean, it's going to be a natural, like, it would be really hard to turn around and sell something a year later to make a really good profit off of that, to
Hmm.
have to pay large amount of taxes on that.
Yeah,
So most of the
very
time you
rare.
need. Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, they waited that 2 year mark, and then they finally 2021, right after they sold, we got them into their single family home, or what they initially thought was going to be like their dream starter home, right?
Yeah.
With their growing kids, which was good because it now they're in it. I mean, this isn't like their home that they want to be their forever home, but they're in a
It's their next
home
step.
that they can be in a much longer than they were trying to be in these step up situations.
Yeah, well, if they had
Um,
rented from 2017 until now, the amount of money that they would have had to have saved would be astronomically more than the amount of
yep,
money that they were able to contribute from home equity. So they were saving
absolutely,
money at the same time as they were gaining home equity, and it really then helped propel them into a place where, yeah, we can actually afford this house now because we've accelerated our savings rate by using this home equity.
absolutely, and the very fact that I check in with all my past clients, and uh,
That's a
there
warning
hasn't
to all
been
you future clients.
there hasn't been any job change, so there hasn't been any significant bump in pay raise or anything. So there hasn't been anything that would have helped them significantly grow
Like signing
that down
bonus or death
payment.
of a rich
Yeah,
uncle or
to be
something.
able to
Yeah.
get into there. Yeah. So some people, even if they can't, like that other client that I told you about, that aggressively save for 5 years for that 20% down payment, these clients, it wouldn't have even been an option for them. So like I feel like I commend them for doing the smart thing by doing this. But now all this to say is, um you don't want to do this uh in a dumb way. Like, you need to be smart about this. Like, you need to go into it when you each purchase needs to be smart, where you can see yourself having multiple exit strategies with the purchase that you have, or like almost like a hang on to it strategy. Like, you need to be like, okay, can I live in this thing for minimum 5 years comfortably? You know what I
You
mean?
guys heard it here. Aaron Morrow, don't be an idiot. That's his slogan.
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as you're working with someone that's going to help you with that, and you're already used to. Now, some people are in apartment living, and it's so much easier to get on board with like a unilateral, like, okay, well, at least if I went into a condo, it'd feel maybe similar, but like at least it's home ownership. It's probably a tougher move for people to go from renting a single family home to owning into a condo that's like an
Yeah.
apartment. But like, you just have to look at it like, what's the space? What's your lifestyle? What do you need?
Well, you got to
Um,
balance the short and the long term costs and benefits because we've talked on this
yeah,
podcast a lot. There are costs and there are benefits to everything, everything, everything,
yeah,
everything. And I can't
absolutely.
decide, you can't decide, no one can decide for that person, that client, the weight of those costs and benefits. Only they can. What we can do is provide the costs and provide the benefits and allow the clients to weigh them. So maybe a lateral move from the apartment to to condo is great for you. Maybe you feel like, hey, I could go from a rental house to a condo because it's mine, and I can start to build equity or a real estate portfolio. Or maybe you think you can't because you got kids and pets, and like the costs and benefits are going to be weighted individually by you, but we're going to give you those costs and those benefits.
Yeah, and of course, and you know what? I will say there's stigma on condos. Like people are like, "Hey, there's so much extra to look into to make sure that you're getting the right buy." And it's like, well, yeah, that might be true, but like just make sure you're working with someone that can help you make sure you are doing the right buy and the right decision for you. You know, don't buy a condo that has a terrible HOA and no reserves and, you know, I mean, I'm not going to make any judgments here, but I would never, you know, I'm not going to get into a condo that has uh millions of dollars that needs of renovation costs on a building that's, you know, needs repairs and
Yeah, and
stuff.
I tell you what, we probably wouldn't give you money for that either. So you can rest assured when you go look at a condo, we're going to look into the condo's financials, not just yours, but the condo's financials to make sure that that building is not going to have a $900 a month assessment next year for you, or dry rot and mold that's going to crumble it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be some safety nets there.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You want to do some math?
with that said, that was my story. We're gonna transition into Brian doing some mathy math for us. All right, let me bring
Yeah.
it. Let me get rid of this. Let's see here. Okay, and I'll let you share yours.
All right. Mhm. For the next 30 minutes, it's going to be me trying to share my screen. So I hope.
No problem.
All right. Here we go.
And then everyone on the podcast just always hears a bunch of clicking around, and they're like, "What is
Just
going
clicking,
on?"
yeah. What is he doing?
Yeah.
Man, they're clicking. Maybe it's a
Okay,
mouse code.
perfect. All right, adding it to
Okay,
the
guys.
stage. All right.
Let's look at in America, and then we're going to zoom in on Washington, of course. Previous 5 years average appreciation for homes is 58.03%. In Washington, we're a bit above that at 58.12. If you are not from Washington, or even if you are from Washington, as I am, Washington resident, and you want me to send this to you, I absolutely will. So real estate is appreciated 58.03% nationally, and Washington is right on that national average at 58.12%. You can see that even those that are below the national average over the past 5 years, not one place has real estate gone down. And we've gone over charts that showed real estate over the past 83 years and how it's appreciated.
Man, check out Idaho
I
or
know, right?
Florida.
We're
Yeah.
there. But we're gonna zoom in on King County because that's where Aaron is right now. So we're gonna look at King County, Washington, and we're gonna look at appreciation, historical appreciation in King County, Washington, if you were to buy a house for $650,000. So I thought about doing this if you had bought it 3 or 4 or 5 years ago for $400,000, we'll say, and then now you would be able to move up to something maybe worth about $650. But let's focus on what you could get about right now in King County. So we're going to do an FHA loan for $650,000. Over the next 5 years, with just the average appreciation, this $650,000 house, look at what happens to this house over the next 5 years. And the reason, as we've gone over in podcasts before, is because this is compound appreciation. So 650 going up by 5% the first year is 37,401. Not time to sell. Costs you to get in, it costs you to get out. But the next year of just normal 5.42% King County appreciation over the past 62 years, so that historical appreciation, taking out the real big upswings of 18 and 19%, that next year, that 5% is off of 687,401, not off of 650. So you can see how it builds. But also there's costs to get in and costs to get out, like I said. So let's look at the real cost of what you're going to be getting. Your cumulative appreciation after closing costs. This is just for buying the house. So you can see here, the first year, you're not going to be making any money. The second year, you're not going to be making a whole lot of money. But as it progresses on, this is after you've paid fees to buy the house as well. So not just what the house is worth, but like the net gain to you. But this is what's really crazy. Look at this return on investment and where can you get this return on investment? It's something we've talked about in this podcast before. If real estate went up 58.12% over the past 5 years in Washington State, and averages 5.42% in King County, that is of the entirety of the asset. But you're not purchasing the asset for cash. So with your 5% down payment, like we talked about, if you buy a house for $500,000, You put 5% down. That's 20 grand. If your house goes up 5% the first year and is now worth 520, the house appreciated by 5%. Your investment had 100% return because you
Yeah.
put 20 in and you gain 20 in equity. So look at this 5-year return on your money. Where else can you get this return and be able to utilize the asset? So you're living in it as well. You're living in it. You're using it. You got to pay mortgage or rent to live inside. So not only are you having a thing that you get to have pride in, you get to create memories in, you get to shelter yourself in, but you also have this huge return on the investment. So this is what we look at with appreciation. Now, what about if you were to use the money like in Aaron's client scenario from condo to townhouse to single family home? So what we're going to look at is you're going to be using the money that you gained on the sale of your house that you bought for $650, and then in 5 years you're going to move up to $1 million house. So you're using this house to step up to this house. Now, this $1 million house right now probably costs $750,000 or $800,000, and then we'll have appreciation up to around $1 million. Just like this 650 house is going to go up to about 800,000 or so, 850. So you're stepping up marginally. But how can I not afford an 850 house now, but I can afford $1 million house? It would be about 850 right now in 5 years. So if you look at this purchase price of 650, you're going to use some of the money as a down payment, and you're going to use some of the money to buy down the rate. We're assuming rates are going to be the same as today. They're going to be lower. We can see all these things that are happening in the economy. They're going to make it that way, but we want to be more conservative in our approach here. So buying a house for 5% down at 650 and then moving up to $1 million house, you're only increasing your payment by $700. Now, $700 is a lot of money, but imagine looking at a $650,000 house and being like, okay, in just 5 years, for only $700 a month more, I could buy a house, $1 million house. That is the power of house appreciation, and then utilizing your money to put you in a better position.
Yeah, seriously.
So we use this return on investment to put it into the house that you really want to be into. Use this stepping stone to get into there, and then your monthly payment is $700 a month more off of this example. As rates go down, that's going to be a different story, of course. And as rates go down, the appreciation goes up. This is a snapshot of a very fluid scenario. So that's the math of it all. You can see what happens to houses, and then you can see how you would be using this first home to move up into. And I think by buying a house that's $350,000 more a month, it wouldn't be just $700 more a month, but that's what it is.
Yeah, seriously. Awesome. Really awesome. I mean,
do you guys follow that, or was that too fast? Was that too boring? Answer me, you guys.
It's pretty quiet today.
All right. It's okay.
Yeah.
You'll have the shorts of that.
We'll probably get a lot of commenters after when the video's uploaded. So, which is fine. Because then we'll give a link to your PDF.
The point today is really, really, really don't miss the forest for the trees. Mm-hmm. Don't exclude yourself from the market like your current client did 3 years ago, because you can't get exactly what you want. Utilize this asset to get exactly what you want later on. You accelerate your savings rate, you accelerate your purchasing power increase with home equity and savings, like the client who purchased in 2017 did. Right. So you have two paths you can take. Take the one that's going to be the most beneficial to you. And Aaron and I, or Aaron and his other stupid lender, will give you the costs and the benefits of yourself. I'm sure he's an amazing guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, great, guys. Well, I mean, I know this was a lot quicker. That's what I said last time, right before I went into
30-minute tirade.
Yeah, definitely. And I forgot what rabbit hole we went down last time, but it was good because it actually made a whole separate blog post. What we were doing, and I wish I was able to just even split it up into 2 separate videos. But great, guys. Well, if you have any questions, let us know. This was a real quick one. I mean, it's kind of easy peasy. So, yeah, what we could do.
It's a principle that we talk about, hey, this
Yeah.
isn't your first home. This isn't your forever home. It's your first home. This is your first rental property. This is your step up into, your next home. But seeing it on paper, one, real life examples of somebody who made that choice and how it affected them, and somebody who made a different choice and how it's affected them. That's huge. And then also how the math bears out. And it's not fudged math. It's just historically, this is what has happened, and this is what will continue to happen.
Yep.
So seeing that kind of, like, the statement is one thing, but then kind of the meat underneath the statement is something else. Oh God. So, cut that out. The meat underneath sounds so gross. The
Are
substance
you a butcher?
behind the statement.
The
Yeah.
substance. Well, I don't
The
know
stuff
now.
is in-
Substance. I don't know.
It's like rotten meat.
Yeah. Rotten meat. Yeah. So what I was gonna say is what we could do is if we get any comments on this video that are kind of asking for either like further clarification or rebuttals, those are things that we will slip into further video to kind of have like as a rebuttal. One thing I would recommend as a side note is if you are someone that has a lot of concerns or counterpoints to some of the points that we just made in this video, we did do a even more thorough podcast a couple of episodes ago that was we compared very conservatively and in favor of renting versus home
Mm-hmm.
ownership and when it makes sense. So I would definitely go watch that video because there's a lot of number breakdowns that Brian does as well. And again, for any of you
Yeah.
podcast listeners, I will remind you again, if any of this stuff is hard to follow along audibly, you can the links on the podcast are always going to be linked to the actual YouTube video that you can go check out on our on my channel, so you can actually go watch the visual aids and have a better understanding of what we're talking about. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to follow the math when it's just audible versus seeing the visual aids. So, but yeah, other than that, if any of you have any questions, or even if you're not in the state and you'd like to know about the next steps or talk about what it would look like to get into home ownership, or if you own something and you want to look into what it would look like to kind of do that upgrade flawlessly into the next step, so sell and buy, feel free to reach out to us. All of our contact information is going to be everywhere that this live is posted, including the podcast. Again, my name is Aaron Morrow, local realtor in the greater Seattle area. I serve both home buyers and sellers in King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties. You can find all of my video testimonials from all of our past clients on the channel as well. There's like 20 plus on there. And then this is Brian, my co-host, one of my favorite lenders I work with. Again,
Top 3 lender on this podcast right now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, he is a Washington resident, licensed in all of Washington, can also help you in some other states. He can let you know. I never remember. So, because I don't do those states, so it's not a big deal to me.
All the states. Just call me and I'll get you all the states.
Yeah, you got it. And again, like I said, if you're outside of the state, but you like our personalities, you want just help with whatever you're looking to do, I can hook you up with my referral network of trusted agents that know how to do this stuff and trusted
You get
lenders.
someone on the inside.
So we can help guide you through it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, you got it. So, good, guys. Other than that, if any of you have questions, please reach out to us. You know where to find us. Again, like I said, this podcast is bi-monthly, so we're off next week, and we'll be on again the following week. You guys have a great weekend.